Hey everybody! Oh, why was I on the floor, you're asking? Nah, don't worry about it. That has nothing to do with what we have to talk about today, because today we're continuing on with the Sonic Advance Trilogy, followed by Sonic Advance... Hey yo, what the fuck?
Sonic Advance back in 2001 and in 2002 proved to be such a massive success for both Sonic Team and DIMS that you wouldn't be surprised that about a year or so later, both in 2002 and in 2003 for the West, Sonic Advance 2 would be in game stores for the Game Boy Advance, providing us another good handheld Sonic adventure that would give us more or less the modern classic blend of Sonic platforming, as well as just improving the things that Sonic Advance did wrong while sticking to something that ultimately results in being one of the best 2D Sonic games I've ever experienced.
I'll go a little bit more into details on that later, but I wouldn't be exaggerating here when I say that out of the entire trilogy of Sonic Advance here, I found a lot more enjoyment in playing Sonic Advance 2, more so than the other two, because to me it stands out a lot more in terms of what a Sonic platformer is, especially in 2D aspects. But before we do talk about that, I gotta talk about the story real quick.
Eggman is back at it again, causing trouble for Sonic and friends here, except this time around he has them kidnapped, so it's up for Sonic the Hedgehog here to rescue them and stop Eggman from his plans in space once again, as well as help Cream the Rabbit, a new character that debuts in this game to help find her mother Vanilla, which can only be done by either completing her route or by gathering all the 7 Chaos Emeralds during Sonic's campaign, to then proceed to throw some supersonic hands at Eggman because for some reason she was kidnapped by him too. But anyways, long before you beat the bald man as usual, Sonic saves Vanilla, the day is saved, and all is well for Sonic to live another day and proceed to head on to another adventure.
That's a nice story plot summary by yours truly and all. I mean, yeah, but where the hell is Amy in this?
Like last time, the game takes a backseat on the story, and so it's up for the gameplay to once again shine through and see what this sequel has to offer in terms of the Sonic Advance experience. And what exactly does it offer? Well, what you would expect out of a Sonic game, of course: zones to traverse through, 7 Chaos Emeralds to collect, an Eggman boss encounter at the end of each zone, and rinse and repeat with 4 other characters: Tails, Knuckles, Cream, and Amy as an unlockable route for some bizarre reason. Don't ask why, it just happens. I guess they just wanted Cream and Cheese to get the spotlight for this one, which I can't blame them, but goddamn, Amy got screwed over. Zone themes and designs are pretty original this go around too. I mean, okay, well, sort of, since you do have some repeats, like Hot Crater reminded me a lot of Sonic Adventure 1's Red Mountain, with the enemy sprites and aesthetics looking very similar to it, and you also got Ice Paradise, a more refined version of Ice Mountain, removing the water sections entirely and just dealing with more ice platforming and slides. And of course you got Leaf Forest, looking like that of a Green Hill zone, but no complaints there since they do get the job done. But then you got some cool ones too, like Music Plant Zone, where it's all music themes and vibrant with its color palette. Sky Canyon with its rough but fair level design also reminded me a lot of Skyrail from Sonic Adventure 2, and personally my favorite of the bunch despite what people say about its difficulty. And then there's Techno Bass, which, major epilepsy warning here, so I do advise to just listen and just whatever, because man does it really get flashy in its design, and it's very off-putting too. It just feels like a major fever dream every single time you go through each of its zones, holy hell. But after this, you got Egg Utopia, which is the final challenge for the gang here as they tackle Eggman once again in space. Who could have thunk?
Now, you can definitely say in some cases that Sonic Advance 2 is indeed a sequel to Sonic Advance 1, and we can kind of argue a little bit more when we get to Sonic Advance 3 and whatever fiasco that presented, but with Sonic Advance 2, we're barely scratching the surface here, folks. Like, wow, there's a lot that I haven't even said so far.
Now, Sonic Advance 2 is not exactly like Sonic Advance 1, where in that game, it was mostly focusing on keeping things safe for newcomers and old-timers when it came down to what they knew best about Sonic in the classic era, no less. Sure, Sonic and the gang went supersonic speed, but there was that stop-and-go elements that I mentioned, as well as just a simplicity to Sonic Advance that made things work, but didn't overstep its boundaries in terms of trying something new for the franchise, despite the fact that they tried the modern and classic elements altogether.
However, with Sonic Advance 2 here, yeah, you might want to buckle up for this one.
Sonic Advance 2 is the complete opposite of what Sonic Advance did, as it emphasizes a lot of the speed that Sonic is known for and keeping things roughly a straight line with some alternative pathways to use along the way, making the pacing as well as momentum steady if you know what you're doing. For most of the stage designs themselves, they are what you would expect, which is great for this game because alone you got the standard classic elements, and all of a sudden you are given grind rails to use, boost rings for maximum maritime, and basically anything that you saw in the adventure era or even today with the modern era, you see them more apparent when Sonic Advance 2. The stages are way longer this time, having one checkpoint in the middle, which is kind of a minor complaint that I have, but whatever it is, and the entire game will have Sonic go from point A to point B in the fastest time possible, and that's the great importance of this game as well. The entire basis of this game is speed, and how do you pick up on said speed? We'll have Sonic run as fast as he possibly can, and in a brief moment he will start to have a boost more or less in terms of his speed. Well, he will run like there's no tomorrow, easily breezing through the stage in some loops and grind sections, as well as just getting to the end as fast as possible while keeping the momentum going. Plus, it's just so fun to see Sonic go from alright, time for my morning jog to gotta go fast, baby! See! I'm telling you, the game never felt so fast when compared to the previous ones, let alone the classic era or even the adventure era, because Sonic goes so fast that it is insane. Easily the best thing about Sonic Advance, as well as the tricks that you can do by pressing the R button and the direction where you plan on going, giving Sonic some neat airtime and cool ways to attack besides the standard jump, and now homing attack that he gets for this one too. Only him though, and kinda makes sense too, since Amy, Tails, and Knuckles are the same as before and already have some major perks to them, which the same sentiment can go for Cream too. Wow, what a debut she got. Well, Cream does the usual stuff in platforming like jumping, flying with her rabbit ears like that of Tails, and spin dashing. Cream is also stupidly easy when it comes to boss fights. This is mostly because for some reason Dimps decided to give this ability to Cream that allows her to send out cheese like a command and just attack as if he's some kind of a JoJo stand and obliterate Eggman in like 3 turns. Holy hell, chows are not something to be messed with, they sure got hands. Now with all these features and just this sense of a proper direction in both level design and platforming, this alone makes Sonic Advance 2 one of the more fun adventures I've had with Sonic on both the handheld and just in general when it comes to the franchise. You can definitely see that in some ways, Dimps essentially made the prototype to the boost formula that we all know and love today from the modern Sonic games and from the Sonic Rush trilogy specifically, since that's where the inception of the mechanic took place. I mean, just to speed through the zones like they're nothing is what I love the most about this game, and really adds that sense of momentum so long as you keep the speed intact and use those tricks to your advantage.
Now, if we were to categorize the Advance Trilogy so far, I'd say with Sonic Advance 1, it did deal a lot more with the exploration value of a Sonic game, while with Sonic Advance 2 here, it showcases a lot of that speed and momentum that we know Sonic games to be nowadays, which is not a bad thing, mind you, if you want, the Sonic fans to tell you otherwise, but it is something that indeed showcases the talent, ability, and skills that is needed at the end of the day to make a Sonic game work. But then there's one small problem with that. Actually, I lied. There's 2 small problems with that. I'm sorry, but what the fuck?
The first problem that I have with Sonic Advance 2 is that despite the enjoyment of running through the stages as fast as possible, this does hinder, in my opinion, the layout of the stages in terms of that aforementioned exploration value. Again, the stages are very linear, and though they do have alternate pathways for you to try out, you most likely will be stuck in one from start to finish, and if you do try to sneak your way into another one for the sake of exploration, then the whole game comes to a screeching halt, and to pick up that speed and momentum again feels lost, which then leads to my second problem that this game has: the special rings and the special stages. While I did say I wanted the special stages for the other 2 games to be improved compared to the mess that I experienced back with Sonic Advance 1, here with Sonic Advance 2, they did improve on the special stages in terms of what it offers. You got Sonic running around a small pseudo 3D space, and you need to collect 300 rings within the time limit, while also dealing with the Eggman robot that chased Amy during Sonic Adventure 1. A neat detail that I quite like here. These special stages do have their quirks, make no mistake on that front, since it was pretty wonky to control Sonic here and collect the rings as intended, especially if you want to keep that multiplier intact and just easily get the 300 ring quota in that way. But for what it is, and compared to the atrocity that the skateboard was back in Sonic Advance 1, I'll take these any day, and it's nice to reference the Sonic CD special stages too to give some level of spotlight to that game as well. But that doesn't negate the way that these stages are accessed though, because why, oh why, did they do it the way they did it here? So in order to activate the special stage, in each act of each zone, there are these special rings to collect that are scattered throughout the stage itself, and you must collect all 7 of them to then get greeted with a special stage thereafter completing. And though the 7 special rings are something in its entirety, that's not the main issue I find, since they give us an incentive to explore the stage and try and make the most out of it. But it's the fact that they are 7 of them that you need to collect, and with the fact that you are going through high speeds in each act, to then have to stop and find them along the way greatly causes the stage design a huge detriment in the end, and this greatly puts off the reward of collecting the Chaos Emeralds that you need in order to unlock the true boss, and it just sucks, period. No, I do not like this at all. To put this in perspective, let's say that in order to collect a Chaos Emerald in a modern Sonic game today, you would have to find all 5 red rings in the stage to do it, and seeing how we all love the red rings mechanic, you now understand where I'm coming from. This idea alone cripples the game for me, because while you can grab 1 or 2 no problem, it's the mere fact that you have to have a mental layout of the map and huge tolerance to insanity in order to get it done. But I am not saying that I am against the idea entirely though, because if it is just 1 special ring to find in the stage, then that would be fine, since it's 1 to look out for and not 6 others to then worry about. It would still add that exploration value as well as keeping the speed and momentum intact.
Keep this in mind, because you only need Sonic at the end of the day in order to unlock the true ending in Sonic Advance 2, so if you ended up just playing the other 3 characters and collected the Chaos Emeralds in their playthrough, well, you done indeed screwed yourself over there, my guy.
But that's about it in terms of the problems I have with Sonic Advance 2, because overlooking this and playing the game normally, it's still a fun time no matter which character you end up choosing, and you can clearly see that Dimps made some massive improvements to this one, no doubt in my mind. In fact, to put this in perspective, Sonic Advance 2 is like the equivalent to Sonic 2 back in 1992, seeing that there were a lot of improvements being made when compared to its predecessor, and again going back to that sense of identity that Sonic Advance as a sub-series is presenting. There are a lot of good qualities to this game that bar and none make Sonic Advance 2 an enjoyable adventure to pick up in the end. After all, Sonic and the gang are animated well, they function as intended, the speed is there thanks to the layout of the stage. Despite what I said in terms of what it goes against it, this alone makes Sonic Advance 2 overall one of my favorite experiences with Sonic to date. Being up there with Sonic Mania, of course, in terms of the classic era, Sonic Adventure 1 in terms of its personality, and Sonic Unleashed in terms of its speed and level design. Which, seeing that we're getting closer to Sonic Frontier's release date, this alone makes me appreciate Sonic a whole lot more, and I honestly can't wait to see him shine properly in November, which, god, that is just so damn soon!
Now, while I did date this video at the end here, what I said about Sonic Advance 2 at the end of the day will be timeless. I really enjoyed this one as far as you can tell, especially more so than the first one, and that's the thing about making these videos sometimes, that you get to experience certain games that you never grew up with, and especially with a series as Sonic that, like I said, I've grew up with this franchise since 2003. It's so nice to kind of tackle some of the sub-series and certain side games here and there that you never got to experience back in the day, and here with Sonic Advance, you get to see a whole new fresh perspective on that, with a little hint of nostalgia here and there, but you know, that's for an entirely different topic and an entirely different day. For now, it's time to get ready for the finale of the Sonic Advance Trilogy here as we tackle Sonic Advance 3 and whatever it is has to present for us on Sonic's front, on our front, and whatever it decided to do as a whole. So stay tuned for that video. Thank you guys so much for the support as always. I love you guys forever and always to 120. Stay safe, stay sexy, and keep doing good into the world, okay? Make sure to stay tuned for that next one, and take care now!